The Beverly Hills Hotel's crystal ballrooms sparkled with my sister Sophia's vision of wedding perfection. Crystal chandeliers, white orchids cascading from every surface, and enough designer florals to fund a small film. I adjusted my simple navy dress, watching wedding planners coordinate final details while Sophia surveyed her kingdom with the satisfaction of someone who'd orchestrated every element for maximum social media impact. The guest list is finally perfect, Sophia announced to our assembled family, holding her iPad like a military general reviewing battle plans. 3 city council members, 2 Superior Court judges, that tech executive Dad knows, and Marcus Chin from Channel 7 News. Mom nodded approvingly as she reviewed the seating chart. People will be so impressed by the connections. This is exactly the kind of wedding that establishes social standing. I stood near the windows overlooking the hotel's legendary pool, where countless Hollywood legends had lounged between takes. Ironic considering I spent most of my days on the lots where those legends had actually worked, though my family had no idea about that part of my life. We need influential people here, Sophia insisted for the 3rd time this week, adjusting place cards with military precision. People who matter, who have real power and connections. Not just random guests filling chairs. The implicit message wasn't lost on anyone, especially me. My sister's wedding would showcase the Castellano family's rise in Los Angeles society. Successful attorney father, philanthropist mother, bride marrying into old money, and the younger sister who did something vague in the entertainment industry that no one really understood. What time does your +1 arrive? Mom asked, checking her watch with the efficiency of someone managing a political campaign. I'm not bringing anyone, I replied, sipping champagne while reviewing text messages from my assistant about tomorrow's production schedule. Anna, you can't attend alone. This is a high-profile event. Appearances matter. Sophia's voice carried the edge of someone whose perfect day was being threatened by a detail she couldn't control. I'd stopped trying to explain my work to my family 3 years ago, after the disastrous Christmas dinner when I'd mentioned working on a major studio project. Dad had listened politely before asking when I'd consider a more stable career in real entertainment, like television news or theater management. The entertainment industry to my family meant the glamorous parts they saw in magazines. Red carpets, award shows, celebrity interviews. They understood Marcus Chen's role as a local news anchor because it came with on-screen recognition and obvious prestige. My work happened behind cameras, in editing bays and production offices where decisions were made that affected hundreds of millions in box office revenue. Anna works behind the scenes, Dad explained to his attorney colleagues who'd asked about his daughter's careers. Something with movies but not acting. More like administrative support. Administrative support. I'd won 2 Emmy Awards for documentary production, managed budgets exceeding $200 million, and maintained relationships with A-list talent whose names appeared on magazine covers worldwide. But because my work didn't come with public recognition, I'd been relegated to administrative support. The photographer wants family photos in 30 minutes, Sophia announced, checking her phone anxiously. Anna, please try to look professional. This is going in Architectural Digest. I nodded politely while reading a text from Ryan Gosling's manager, confirming Tuesday's meeting about his new project. The same phone held messages from directors, producers, and studio executives whose decisions shaped global entertainment. But at Sophia's wedding, I was the family member who needed to look professional for photos. I still think you should have invited someone impressive, Mom whispered as we gathered for pictures. A doctor, a lawyer, someone who could add to the conversation. These people will want to network. I thought about the conversations I'd had this week. Strategy sessions with Netflix executives, creative meetings with Oscar-winning directors, budget discussions for films that would premiere at Cannes. But those conversations happened in conference rooms my family would never see, with people they'd recognize from movies but never imagine I knew personally. The wedding coordinator wants to start seating VIP guests, Sophia called out, her voice tight with pre-ceremony nerves. Mom, you and Dad should greet the important arrivals. Anna, you can help with the other guests. Other guests. I was relegated to managing the B-list while my family networked with local politicians and small market news anchors. The irony wasn't lost on me as I checked another message from my assistant. Scarlett's flight lands at 4 p.m. Should I confirm the +3 for her security detail? I slipped my phone away, smiling as Sophia adjusted her dress one final time. She had no idea that her carefully curated guest list was missing some names that would have made Architectural Digest's photographer very, very excited. But that was about to change. The ceremony proceeded flawlessly, with Sophia gliding down the rose-petal aisle toward her finance executive fiancé while 200 carefully selected guests witnessed her fairy tale moment. I sat in the family section, applauding at appropriate moments while discreetly checking messages from talent managers, studio heads, and publicists coordinating arrivals for the reception. During the cocktail hour, I watched my family work the room with practiced precision. Dad discussed legal strategies with superior court judges while Mom charmed the wives of tech executives. Sophia posed for photos with local celebrities like she was hosting the Met Gala rather than a Beverly Hills hotel reception. "Anna, come meet Councilman Rodriguez," Dad called out, gesturing me toward a conversation cluster near the bar. "He's interested in supporting local arts initiatives." I joined the group politely, listening to discussions about municipal funding for community theater while my phone buzzed with updates from my assistant. "Leo's plane just landed. Emma's car is 20 minutes out. Should I alert hotel security about the paparazzi situation? Your daughter works in entertainment?" Councilman Rodriguez asked Dad, turning to me with polite interest. "What aspect of the industry?" "Production work," I replied diplomatically. "Documentaries, some feature films." "Technical crew. Important work. Someone has to handle the behind-the-scenes stuff." He nodded approvingly before returning his attention to Dad's more substantial legal practice. Technical crew. I'd produced documentaries that had shaped public policy and influenced presidential elections, but to people outside the industry, production meant operating cameras or managing catering services. "Guests are starting to arrive for dinner," the wedding coordinator announced. "If everyone could begin finding their seats." Sophia had orchestrated the reception like a campaign event, with strategic table assignments designed to maximize networking opportunities. The head table showcased her new in-laws' old money connections, while surrounding tables mixed judges, executives, and local media personalities in carefully calculated proximity. I found my assigned seat at table 12, strategically positioned near the back with distant cousins and college friends, far from the power center where real networking would happen. The table assignment spoke volumes about my perceived value to the family's social aspirations. "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. and Mrs. Jonathan Whitfield," the DJ announced as Sophia and her new husband entered to thunderous applause. The reception flowed through its choreographed phases. First dance, parent speeches, dinner service with precision timing that rivaled award show productions. I sat quietly while tablemates discussed their careers in insurance, education, and municipal planning, occasionally checking my phone for updates from the team managing arrivals outside. During the salad course, Marcus Chin from Channel 7 News approached our table. "Excuse me, are you Anna Castellano? Someone mentioned you work in entertainment." "I do. Channel 7 is always looking for local angle stories. Maybe we could discuss featuring your work sometime. You know, local girl makes good in Hollywood type of piece." I smiled politely, thinking about how that story might read if he knew the full scope of my career. "That's very kind, Marcus. I'll keep it in mind." As he walked away, my cousin Lisa leaned over conspiratorially. "Anna, you should totally do that interview. Finally, some recognition for whatever it is you actually do." Whatever it is you actually do. Even my own family treated my career like a hobby that occasionally paid bills rather than a profession that influenced global entertainment. "Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for toasts," the DJ announced. "We'll start with the maid of honor, followed by the best man, and conclude with words from the bride's family." Sophia's best friend delivered a polished speech about friendship and destiny, while the best man shared amusing college stories that landed perfectly with the sophisticated crowd. When Dad took the microphone, he spoke eloquently about family values, success, and the importance of surrounding yourself with influential people who shared your ambitions. "Sophia has always understood that success comes from connecting with people who matter," Dad concluded. "Tonight, surrounded by judges, executives, and community leaders, we celebrate not just a marriage but the beginning of a powerful network that will serve them throughout their lives." The applause was enthusiastic and genuine. I clapped politely while checking my phone one final time. 3 messages from my assistant. All arrivals confirmed. Security is handling media. Ready when you are. As the applause died down, I stood slowly, looking around the ballroom filled with local dignitaries and regional power brokers. Time to show my family what real Hollywood connections looked like. Before we conclude tonight's toasts, I said, walking toward the microphone as conversations quieted, I'd like to say a few words about family, connections, and the people who truly matter in our lives. Sophia smiled graciously, assuming I was following the evening's theme of celebrating networking and social advancement. Dad nodded approvingly while Mom adjusted her posture for the photographer capturing every moment. Sophia, you've always believed in surrounding yourself with influential people, and you're absolutely right about the importance of meaningful connections. I paused, checking my phone one final time. Which is why I've invited a few friends to help celebrate your special day. The ballroom doors opened as if on cue, and a subtle murmur rippled through the crowd as hotel security discreetly positioned themselves around the room. Then the first familiar face appeared. Leonardo DiCaprio, followed closely by Emma Stone, both dressed elegantly for an evening celebration. The murmur became gasps, then stunned silence as more arrivals followed. Ryan Gosling entered with his characteristic low-key confidence, while Scarlett Johansson paused to speak quietly with hotel staff about photography protocols. "Oh my God," someone whispered loud enough for half the room to hear. Jennifer Lawrence appeared next, followed by Michael B. Jordan, then Margot Robbie, each arrival sending fresh waves of shock through the assembled guests. These weren't B-list celebrities making appearances for publicity. These were A-list actors, directors, and producers arriving as personal friends. I watched my family's faces transform from confusion to astonishment as the reality settled in. Marcus Chin from Channel 7 News fumbled for his phone, probably calculating whether this qualified as breaking news. The Superior Court judges sat frozen, unsure how to process that the family's supposedly unsuccessful daughter commanded this level of Hollywood loyalty. "You see," I continued into the microphone, my voice carrying easily across the now silent ballroom, "I've been fortunate to work with some extraordinarily talented people over the past several years. People who've become genuine friends through our collaborations." Christopher Nolan entered with his wife, followed by Greta Gerwig and Noah Baumbach. The photographer hired for Architectural Digest had abandoned wedding portraits entirely, frantically capturing arrivals that would make international headlines. "Anna," Dad whispered, his voice barely audible, "what is happening?" "My work in entertainment," I replied, still holding the microphone, "involves producing and developing projects with some of the industry's most respected artists. The documentaries you've heard me mention? They've won Emmy Awards and influenced policy at the highest levels of government." Bradley Cooper appeared with Lady Gaga, both offering warm smiles as they spotted me at the microphone. Behind them came Jordan Peele, Lupita Nyong'o, and Timothée Chalamet, each arrival confirming that this wasn't a publicity stunt or coincidental celebrity sighting. The feature films I've mentioned working on have grossed over $2.8 billion worldwide. The administrative support, Dad described, involves managing budgets that exceed the GDP of small countries and making creative decisions that affect global entertainment. Sophia stood motionless beside her new husband, watching her carefully planned wedding transform into something resembling a spontaneous Academy Awards afterparty. The local dignitaries she'd worked so hard to impress were now visibly starstruck, fumbling with phones to capture proof of an evening they'd never be able to adequately describe. "So Sophia, as you begin this new chapter surrounded by people who matter," I concluded, gesturing toward the Hollywood luminaries now mingling with shocked wedding guests, "remember that sometimes the most meaningful connections are the ones you already have." The applause that followed was unlike anything the Beverly Hills Hotel ballroom had ever heard. The reception transformed into something unprecedented in Beverly Hills social history. A-list celebrities mingled with local judges and city council members, creating photographs that would dominate entertainment news for weeks. Hotel staff scrambled to accommodate the unexpected security requirements while paparazzi gathered outside, having caught wind of Hollywood royalty descending on a private wedding. Leonardo DiCaprio spent 20 minutes discussing environmental policy with Councilman Rodriguez, who'd earlier dismissed me as technical crew. Emma Stone charmed the Superior Court judges with stories about legal accuracy in courtroom scenes. Ryan Gosling sat with my distant cousins, making their table the most photographed spot in the ballroom. Anna, I don't understand. Mom approached during a brief lull, her voice shaking. How do you know these people? Why didn't you ever tell us? I tried to tell you, Mom. You heard entertainment work, and assumed I fetched coffee for important people. Marcus Chin from Channel 7 News cornered me with desperation in his eyes. Anna, I had no idea about your industry connections. Could we discuss that interview series? Maybe something more substantial than local angle stories. I smiled politely while watching Sophia pose for photos with Jennifer Lawrence, both women laughing genuinely despite the surreal circumstances. The family group chat exploded overnight with screenshots of social media posts from the wedding. Every major entertainment outlet ran stories about Hollywood's secret power player, whose influence had remained hidden from even her own family. By morning, Dad had deleted his LinkedIn post about daughters choosing realistic career paths. Success, I'd learned, was most satisfying when it required no explanation, only recognition of what had always been true.